Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, here at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, here in the not quite so sunny corner of southeast Scotland. I hope everybody is doing well. I am back from a week vacation, which was very nice, although kind of started a little bit, shall we say, inauspiciously, in as much as we had Storm Floris, which kind of hit just as we were leaving. So we kind of managed to get out of the worst of it. And because we were going south, just maybe a few miles over the border into England. And so we basically missed the worst of it. But it certainly got windy. That is definitely for sure. And we were staying in a caravan park, and our caravan did shake, rattle, and roll a wee bit, and it was pretty windy. But we missed the worst of it. It was the west coast and the Highlands of Scotland that got the worst of it, and it was fine. It was good. We had a great little week. Dave is saying you got some sun. No, I didn't. It wasn't actually that sunny, to be fair. I think we had a couple of days where it was nice, where we had a little bit of sunshine, but for the most part, no, I did not get the sun. But yeah, we had a very nice time together as a family, me, my wife Kate, and our two teenage kids. And, going on holiday with teenage kids can be... it can be hit or miss. Sometimes, teenagers will be teenagers, but actually that didn't happen. The kids were fantastic. They were very well behaved, and they actually had a really good time. And therefore, so did we as a family. We had a great time as well. And it was just nice to get away and not be in this studio for a few days was also very nice. But I'm back. And hitting the ground running with show today. We got back on Friday, early evening Friday, because we left the camp. When did we leave the holiday park? We left the holiday park, I think, kind of like mid-morning. And my kids basically decided that we should go to Newcastle. Because there is a gigantic shopping mall in Newcastle. It's one of the biggest shopping malls in Europe, and it's certainly one of the biggest ones in the UK, and so they decided that they wanted to go there. So that's where we went, and we did some shopping, and we had lunch, and it was just very, very cool. And then that was like an extra kind of hour and a half or so in the wrong direction. So we went further south from the camp down into Newcastle. And then it was like a 2.5 hour drive back home. But it was great. It was nice. We had a fantastic time. I really enjoyed myself, and we went swimming. We did lots of things. The kids did an assault course on the Friday. It was great. It was good. It was good times. Good times were had by everybody, and beers and wine were drunk. And I think my wife had a few gin and tonics. It was great. So I'm looking forward to the next one now. Mike from Peace Valley Audio says, "I don't take my teenagers on vacation anymore. She never wants to go anyways." Yeah, I have heard a lot of that from friends who have teenage kids. And they say they basically can't take their kids on holiday anymore, and I totally hear that. I totally get that. I was kind of expecting maybe we might have that, but we didn't. We didn't. It was good. They actually had a great time, and the one I was most concerned about was not that I want to throw him under the bus live on a show, but my son I thought would be the one that we would possibly. He might not be quite so happy to go because it meant he'd be away from his PlayStation. He'd be away from his Discord servers where he plays games with his mates. But no, he was totally cool. He was totally cool, and he was fine. And he didn't get bored at all, which was a big thing. that I thought might happen. But no, it didn't. So everybody was good, and we had a very nice, relaxing time. But I am very glad to be back here tonight for Sunday Night Live, and I cannot believe that we are well into August already, and we're already, preparing for our kids to go back to school, which happens next week. Now, if you're from down in England, your schools don't go back until September, the middle of September. You've got another sort of 4 or 5 weeks left. Whereas here in Scotland, the academic year starts in the second week of August and runs through until June. And so in Scotland, the summer holiday is just a wee bit longer than it is down in England. And it kind of works for us in Scotland because, summers can be notoriously unpredictable here. So the kids are going back to school on Wednesday. And I return back to work on Tuesday. I've got tomorrow to kind of start getting myself into the right kind of frame of mind for work, having been away for a week. So yeah, it's been good. And of course, before that, I was in Hamburg. So I basically came home from Hamburg, had a day at home, and then off we went on our little vacation. So I've not really technically been home for probably 12 days or so. But yeah, so that's been the story. So we didn't have a Songwriting Simplified show this week because I was down in England, and I tell you, I did think maybe if we have a decent internet connection, maybe I might do a little short live, kind of Q&A thing on Wednesday using my phone. But you know what? The internet sucked. It was really, really bad. It was worse than dial-up. So from the caravan, and there was nowhere really outside of the caravan at that time of night where I could have gone, because everything would have been shut down for the night. So and that really was the only place where I could have used Wi-Fi. But in the caravan itself, there was virtually no cell phone network at all. So no, couldn't have even tried it, even if I wanted to. But I did think about doing that because I was aware that the previous week I hadn't done a show because I hadn't done a Songwriting Simplified because I was in Hamburg. So I was aware that we had not done a show for 2 weeks on Wednesday. So this Wednesday we'll be back with a bang for Songwriting Simplified. So if over the last couple of weeks you have you've had questions that have come up about songwriting, composing, and arranging, we will be back with a bang with Songwriting Simplified on Wednesday. So hold your questions, get them kind of written down somewhere so you don't forget them, and then you can post them live in the chat on that show next this coming Wednesday, in fact, when my kids go back to school. So please stick around for that, and we will be back to normal schedule all the way through. I think up until Christmas now. We should be back to normal Sunday, Wednesday, all the way through until Christmas. And then we'll be doing a Christmas special, of course, and we'll be doing a Hogmanay show like I do every year as well. And also, just to remind folks, I am in conversation with Rich Cresswell, who I don't think is here tonight, but I am in conversation with him about what we're going to do with Halloween and the songwriting challenge that we've done for the last couple of years. So I'm talking to him about whether we're going to run that again this year, and we'll see what we come up with. And maybe we'll run that again this year, and maybe we'll also run the Christmas one as well. We will see. But I would certainly like to do that again this year, because those songwriting challenges I think have been really, really good. And you guys have put in some really, really great entries. So I would like to revisit that. again this year, but we will see. We will see what you guys want to do. If it's something that you guys want to do, if you want to do another, like we've done over the last couple of years, where we've done a Halloween challenge and a Christmas challenge. If you guys are up for that, let me know. You can drop me an email. Go to the web address at the bottom of the screen here, jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk. Hit the contact form. Drop me an email. Let me know. And you can also comment as well in the chat, or if you're watching this on replay, just in the comment section below the video, let me know if the songwriting challenges are something you want to carry on with this year. And if you do, if we get enough interest and enough people are up for it, then we will definitely run them again this year. So there you go. All right, so show preamble over with. Billy Morgan, of course, was first in the door again, followed by Tony Cardona. Good to see you, my friend. Welcome back. Who's now calling himself Tony Tuna Tones Cardona. I like that. That's very cool. And we've got Chris Mrackner here, who says, such wonderful news yesterday. I ordered an Airwave last January and was just informed it might arrive by late October. Wow, that is some delay that it's taking that long to get to you. That's crazy. I mean, are they like hand building the thing? I don't know. Chris also says, I ordered a new Korg workstation keyboard and it has been delayed till late September. Good grief. I'm amazed at both of those, that they are so badly delayed. That is insane. And it does make me wonder whether those companies are actually, maybe hand building it, and they've got like a team of elite hamsters that are creating these devices for you. And then maybe they've already been finished. Maybe they are already made and they're packaged and they're good to go. And maybe what they're doing is they are training these hamsters to row the kayak across the Pacific Ocean to get to the United States with your package. And it's going to be carried on this kayak that is rowed by a bunch of hamsters. We'll have to wait and see, but it kind of sounds like that, to be honest, Chris. I'm really sorry to hear that. And we've got Craig from the W5 family here. We've got Daryl Harrison. We've got Stephen Wilson. We've got Goldberg as well. We've got Kyle Draduziak. And the aforementioned Mike from Peace Valley Audio is here too. We've got Lowens. We've got Dave from Bops NY. We've got Keith from Radio Talk Frumpets. We've got Bobby Booth. Don Oliver is here as well. And oh yeah, Chris is saying tariffs. Yeah, that kind of makes sense. We got Just Bob here as well, which is awesome. Dave says, here in the States you can tell when school starts. Grown-ups don't seem to be too caffeinated. That's an interesting observation. Yeah, I don't know that such an observation is pertinent here. Mostly because, my kids are teenagers, so, I don't have to do school runs anymore, and neither does my wife. In fact, my wife is the first person on a work day. She's the first person out the door to work. She leaves before 8 a.m. In fact, sometimes she leaves at 7 a.m. So she's the first one that is out the door, and then the kids are out the door. And then I get up, I'm actually just getting up out of bed once everybody has gone out of the house. So, by the time 8:30 rolls around, I finally decide I should probably get up and get breakfast and get moving so that I can start work at 10 a.m. So that's kind of how it goes here. Yeah, I'm very thankful actually that we have moved past the need for doing school runs. Because yes, that did require caffeine. You're quite correct. It did require quite considerable amounts of caffeine to get myself going in the morning, because I had to walk, at that time I had to walk my kids to school, and it was a decent distance. It was about maybe 1.5 miles, to their school. And then of course I had to walk the 1.5 miles back. Yes, I could have got the bus. But really, when bus prices are what they are now, no. No, not when it's like £2 for a single journey and it's only a mile and a half down the road. Not worth it. And you guys are making hilarious jokes about row your boat. That's very, very funny. Let's see. Just Bob says your wife is the only one who goes out the door to go to work. That's correct. Yep, I work from here. This is my studio, but it also doubles as the Persona Scotland office as well. And the way you know the difference is because this blue light that's above my head will turn to yellow. Now I'm in office mode, but then when it goes back to blue, now we are in studio mode. So that literally is the only difference. So there you go. Anyway. So if you guys have Studio One questions or questions about recording, mixing, and mastering, get them in the chat now. And then we can talk about such things. If you have new gear like Chris has on order, please do tell your stories about those kind of things too. I would certainly like to hear if you've got new gear that you are looking forward to either purchasing, that you're considering purchasing, or, you know, you've got something on order that you are waiting for. What color is the light for mellow, dude? This is blue. Yes, I did mention that Goldberg is here, Tony. Yes, thank you. But I did. So we have two Tonys in here. We got Tony again. We got Tony Cardona, and we've also got Tony Stringer here as well. And yes, I did mention that Goldberg is here as well. I have done that. Cleon is also here, who says night night. Are you going to bed, Cleon? So yeah, so if you guys have questions about Studio One, recording, mixing, mastering, get those into the chat now. And as I said, if you've also got some gear that you're interested in, please tell us about that you're looking at maybe purchasing. Or if you have a story like Chris's where you have ordered some gear and it looks like it may be taking some time to get here, we can talk about that as well. Chris says, am I going to address last week's questions? Well, I addressed one of your questions before I went on my break. And you're right, I did say that I would get to the other one. So let me go to my email and have a look at that question. Let me see. Let me see if I can find your email for a start. Okay, so your question here was about audio or MIDI loops and how to create your own and save your own so that they can be used in other songs. That's a good question. So how do we go about doing that? Well, if you want to create a loop that is audio, that's fairly easy to do. You just need to record something. The other thing you need to do is, if you want to be able to have that so that it is stretchable, so it could be used at different tempos for different songs, different scenarios, then you need to make sure that the tempo data is recorded to the event when you create your loop. For the most part, Studio One kind of does that for you by default. So if you set your default blank song to something like 120 BPM, which most DAWs do that, Studio One, I think it's 120, But if you set it to that, or you set it to something else and you create your loop, what will happen is that audio event will have the tempo data written to it. So that includes that tempo. That's a good thing, because then what that means is when you've recorded it and you've saved it and you've moved that audio event to a certain folder on your computer, then what you can do is you can open a new song that's at a completely different tempo, and then you can drag that event in. And if you have time stretch enabled on your track that you drag it onto, then your audio event will contract or expand depending upon whether the tempo is faster or slower than the tempo that you recorded it at. With MIDI, you don't have to worry about that, because MIDI doesn't need tempo. It just doesn't need tempo, because it's just no on and no off values and where they are on the grid. So they will expand and contract by default anyway. Now, audio is dead easy to do. Like I said, you just need to record something and put it in a folder. Done. And kind of give that event a name of some kind. And that's it. That's all you got to do. And then you just need to, when you open a song, just drag that in. So let me see if I do have an example that I can use. Let me go to a new blank song, which, funnily enough, the blank song here is set to 120. So if you are creating your own little library of loops, then they will be located in your Files tab here. And you'll see here that I have my C folder. I'm not interested in my C folder, but I am interested in my passport here, my F drive here. I'm going to close that video here, that video folder. Because what I can do is I can put different loops onto this drive. And I've got a couple of examples here. I've got this here. This is an MP3. This is a mix down of an old theme tune that I used to use for this show. Some of you may remember this. Now, what I can do, because I've already made this and it's already got a title and it already lives on this drive, what I can do is I can just drag this in here. And then once it's done that, what you'll notice now, if I hit play here, notice how it's not synced to tempo. That's because this doesn't have any tempo data in it. But if I open the inspector and I see what this is, it says not set. So I can spend some time figuring out what the tempo for this particular piece was. Now, actually, I already have this song in existence, so it wouldn't be too hard for me to go and figure out what the original tempo is. It doesn't even have a guess at the tempo, which is interesting because normally it would do that. I'm going to say that that's probably round about 160. That's what I think that is. So I could set this value in here. Now, I'm not sure if this is correct, but we will see. Okay, now let's speed this up to 160. I'm not sure whether that tempo of 160 is correct. I don't remember. But once you've got a tempo value in here, then as you can see, you can easily time stretch this with no issues at all. And then what you would do is, if this was a recording that I had just made just now, then I can right click here. I can change this title here and give it a name. So if it's just like a piano loop or a drum loop of some description, I can describe what this is by changing the name of the event. Once I've done that, I can drag it to my location that I want it to be on. And then when I do that, it will give me some options. So if I was to just drag this over here, now you see there's a bunch of options before I let go of the mouse. At the moment it says WAV file, but I can also turn it into an audio loop, which is a Studio One file format. And then that will encode all the tempo data and everything into the file. And then what that means is I can bring that audio loop into any song. I can put it onto a pad in Impact. I can put it into sample one. I can do whatever I want with it. I can manipulate it in any way that I want. Okay. But for right now, I'm not going to do that. What I am going to do is I am going to remove this track and everything that was on it. And I'm going to close the inspector. Don't need that anymore. So that's with something that I have already created. I can create something like I can create a little piano loop. Let's go and set that to 1. And we'll set this to input right. And we'll call this Rhodes loop. And we're going to change the color. I don't know why it defaults to that color, but anyway. And then the other thing I can do is I can set the channel condition to stereo. And I can go to effects because I've got a track preset that I like to use. And you'll see why in just a minute. So let's get our click on. We'll enable our pre-count. And we've got a tempo of 160 because I didn't actually change the damn tempo. All right, so all right, so let's say this is my little loop. And I've already named it. So what I can do now is I can go, I'm happy with that. Let's just drag this over here. And then I think, what do I do? Do I tap Alt? Yes, I tap Alt. Wave file with rendered insert effects, which is that's what I actually want, so that it basically it will print all of those effects from my effects chain. So I'm going to do that. And where did it go? There it is, down the bottom there. So now what I can do is I can go and remove the track. And then let's say we open a new song, but this time let's say we bring this into a new song. And what we'll do is we will just drag this in, and it should be nicely time stretched. And yes, you can hear artifacting going on. And the reason for that is because that was originally recorded 55 beats a minute faster than the tempo we've set here. So basically everything is being elongated. And that's why you're hearing artifacting here, because it's been basically stretched out to such a degree that basically the computer is basically trying to fill in the gaps to make a coherent waveform. And that's where artifacting takes place. So keep in mind, that's probably not the best option. Let's go for 130. A bit less artifacting, because now we've limited that tempo range of the original file to this new tempo to about 30 beats a minute. Much easier for the computer to manage that. So that works a lot better. So I've created my loop. I've saved it. It's over here. I can access this and I can bring this into any song whenever I want. And it should work just fine. I also have stuff that I've done with MIDI as well. So I've already created some interesting little things here. So I've got this Cinematic Lights MIDI file here. Now the cool thing about this is it has a particular preset that's already built into it. And the same with this Deep Flight 1 track as well. So what I can do is I can just drag this in. Notice how there's... that shouldn't have happened. But that's okay, because I can go and get Cinematic Lights and just drop that on there. And I can go for that there. All right. So the secret with this is, I actually thought this already had a preset built into it. Apparently it didn't. I thought that it did. Interesting. So that's this Deep Flight 1 track here, but it's actually using the Cinematic Lights. As you can see there, it says playing on Cinematic Lights, because it needs an instrument to be able to play it. But there is a way in which you can create a MIDI file and you can actually store the instrument preset choice into the file. And I appear not to have done that. I thought I had. Okay. Yeah, there is a way to do it. What I will do with this one, just to kind of save time, for this MIDI aspect of your question, I will make a separate video on this. And I will double check exactly how you can create this little MIDI file and its instrument and its preset. So when you drag it in, it recalls the instrument and the preset that you've used as well. There is a way to do that. I'm just not quite sure that I've done it correctly here. And I can't even remember how to do it. So I will go and check how to do it, and then I'll make a separate video for you on that, and it will come up on this channel as a separate standalone video. So I'm sorry that I can't completely answer the question just now on this, but I will do. I promise. I will get a video on how to do this. Rich Cresswell actually may already have a video on how to do that. But I will certainly make one as well. So there we go. It's a great question. I'm not going to lie. So let's go back over here and let's see what else we have. Hang on, what's going on? There we go. Just Bob says, how would you take an old cassette 4-track recording, send to Studio One, and boost the sounds of recordings up to close and modern capture? Okay, so you're talking about mastering something that you did on a cassette, but mastering it in Studio One. You can do that. You would have to run the outputs of the cassette machine into the inputs of your interface and then record it basically into Studio One. That's the only way that you're going to be able to get the audio off the cassette and into Studio One. So you're going to have to find the tempo of the recording on the tape machine and match that to the tempo of your song in Studio One. And you're going to have to take into account the fact that tape speeds up and slows down. So you're going to have to take that into account as well. Once you've got that, then it's just a matter of recording the output of the tape machine into Studio One. And then you can start doing things like, boosting the gain by as much as you need to. If you're wanting to basically do a fresh mix of the 4 tracks, then you're going to have to record each individual track into Studio One on its own, soloed. And then you'll have your 4 tracks, and then you can do a remix, and you can, use some EQ, some compression, whatever you need to do your mix. But one of the things you're going to have to do is you're going to have to find a way to de-noise the tape so that you get rid of some of that tape noise. Unless, of course, you want to keep it authentic and keep the tape noise in. It's kind of up to you whether you like the tape noise or you don't like the tape noise. If you want to get rid of the tape noise, then something like de-noise from Isotope RX might well help you there. And you can just run de-noise on each of your tracks. And then you can boost the gain and stuff like that in Studio One. Just boosting the event gain. It's actually a lot more simple than you might think it might be. You might think that it's going to be a complicated process, but really it isn't. But the thing you're going to have to bear in mind is when you increase the gain, you're also going to increase the noise as well. So you're going to have to bear that in mind because it's coming from tape. But it's pretty straightforward. You just record the output of the tape machine into the inputs of your interface. Make sure it's not going to clip. And then you will have your recordings inside of Studio One instead of just on the tape machine. And then you can get to work with EQ, compression, limiting, whatever you want to do to mix it. So it's actually a lot more straightforward than you might think. But that's another good question. Tony says, can I use Fender Studio with my Audion ID44 interface? Or is Fender Studio only proprietary to PreSonus interfaces? Well, it's Fender, so it's not proprietary to PreSonus products in particular. You can use any audio interface. For example, I have Fender Studio on this computer, and I'm using my Quantum HD8. But you can use whatever interface that you're using on your computer, if you're using it on a computer. If you're using it on an iOS device, like an iPad or an iPhone, then you need a particular device that will work on your iOS device. So it may be the Fender Link IO, for example, or you could use the AudioBox i2. That's another good option because the AudioBox i2 also works with an iOS device. Yeah, the Waves NS1, Dave, yes, that will definitely work to denoise. The Waves NS1 is actually pretty good. I used to have it. I don't have it anymore. But yeah, that's a good option for going back to that previous question, for sure. But yeah, Fender Studio, if you're doing it on your PC, then use whatever interface you have for recording on your PC. If you're doing it on your Android phone, then you need to use an interface that works with your Android phone. The Fender Link IO should work on your Android device. I don't know about the Audion ID44 because I don't have that device. I don't know anything about it. So I don't know whether that device is compatible with something like an Android phone. It might not be. If it's not, then there's your answer. It won't work. But yeah, you can use any audio interface that will work with your iPhone, your Android phone, your Galaxy tablet, whatever device you're using. You need to make sure that your audio interface is going to be compatible with that device. That's the first thing you need to do. So you need to do a little bit of research. You need to look on the Audion website. You need to look at the product page for your Audion ID44, and you need to have a look and see what devices it is compatible with. Is it compatible with an Android phone? It might not be. And if it's not, then there's your answer. You're going to have to get hold of a more mobile device, maybe a Link IO, maybe an AudioBox Go, something like that, something smaller, something that is compatible with an Android device. It's a good question, though. Good question. And yes, I will take not just Studio One questions on this show, I will take Fender Studio questions as well. So I'm glad you put that out there. Let's see. Free trial version, use it and lose it. Nah, I did not have the free trial version of the NS1. I paid for mine. But it's old. It's an old plugin, so it doesn't work in Studio One 7. Let's see. Stem separation only works once you've got the stereo audio file into Studio One. And stem separation will not necessarily separate everything. But if you're using a 4-track tape machine, then you want to see if you can solo each of your tracks that you've already recorded on, and then record them into Studio One individually, one at a time. So yeah, your Tascam has 4 individual outs. So run those 4 individual outs into 4 channels on your interface, and then record those. Let's see, what else do we have? Yeah, Kyle, that's great advice. 2 tracks at a time and then manually lined up the pairs. Yeah, that's a great suggestion. Lowen's deleted his comment. I don't know why he did that. Because he was writing something about compression and then he deleted that. I think his question was, do you guys compress? And I would say I compress when it needs to be compressed. If it doesn't need to be compressed, then no, I don't compress it. And actually, I know you deleted it, but it's actually a good question. Should we compress everything? I don't think so. I mean, obviously, this is going to be genre specific. So there are going to be some genres where where you should compress everything. Like, for example, if you are working in EDM or you're working in industrial music, where everything is compressed to Hades, that is the style of music, then yes, you do need to compress everything. Do you compress the drum tracks separately or compress the submix on a bus? If the song requires compression, I will compress both. If it's heavy metal, then yes, you're going to use a lot of compression. If it's EDM, you're going to use a lot of compression. You're also going to use sidechain compression probably. If you're working in rock, pop, R&B, heavy metal, funk, fusion, any of those kind of rock-based styles of music, you are going to be compressing and parallel compressing. If you're working in jazz or folk or other acoustic musics like orchestral or chamber music, you're not really going to be doing very much compression at all. You may do a little bit, but it's going to be very subtle. And you're certainly not really going to be parallel compressing. So how much you compress and when you compress is going to be dependent upon the style of music that you're working with, and also how well the track's been recorded. If it's been recorded with compression, you may not need to do any compression at all. So if the vocal chain already has an EQ and a couple of compressors in series, and there may be a limiter before it goes into Studio One, you're probably, when it comes to mixing, not going to need to do any compression at all. You might do a little bit of EQ to kind of, get it to sit right in the overall context of the mix, but you're probably not going to do any further compression because it's probably not going to need it. Lowen says, I've been sending my drums to a bus and using Arturia's, is that iMix drums? I think. Yeah, I mean, compressor drum bus, again, genre dependent, maybe. Rock music, for sure. I would even create a parallel bus and I would do some parallel compression as well, and then blend that in with other tracks as well. But yeah, it's dependent upon recording. What's been done in the recording phase? Has there been compression used in the recording phase? If there hasn't been, then yeah, you may well compress. If there has been, you may still compress. It's going to come down to what sounds right for the song. Don't just compress because you've been told compression is important. Compression is important. EQ and compression are your two basic and most powerful and most important tools of mixing. But you don't always need to use them. There will be occasions where you won't need to use either at all. If it sounds good as it is, you don't need to do any further compression. You don't need to do any further EQ. Context is king. So how does it sound in the context of the mix? Do the drums sound fine in the context of the mix with no EQ and no compression on them? If they do, you don't need to do anything. Because it's not a rule, it is not a law of mixing that you must EQ and you must compress. That's a myth. That is a myth. If it needs compression, compress. If it doesn't need compression, leave it alone. Don't compress it. you can easily do damage to your mix by doing things that aren't necessary. And this is one of the things that separates kind of, beginner, amateur, early level, early in their experience mix engineers from people that have been doing it for a while and are a little bit further down the road, and people that are at intermediate and advanced and professional level mixers. They know sometimes you don't need to you don't need to compress. You don't need to EQ sometimes. Sometimes it's best just to leave it alone. But you only get to that point with experience by doing a lot of mixing. When you first start out mixing, you will compress everything. You will EQ everything. You will have an EQ and a compressor on every channel in the mixer and on every bus in the mixer. That's just the way you will start when you first start mixing, because you know that EQ and compression is important. That's what I did when I first started out. I learned on an SSL console before computers and all of that were involved in mixing, and I was always going for EQ, going for compression on every single channel. And I learned over time, actually, if I process the mix more than is necessary, you can end up with a weaker sounding mix at the end of the day. A mix that doesn't hit you in the face. A mix that doesn't sound big, that doesn't sound wide, that doesn't have front to back depth, as well as width, left to right. It just sounds weak and it sounds small. And when you hear your mix and it sounds like that, it is usually because you've done more processing than you need to. You don't need to compress everything. You don't need to EQ. Even if you are in heavy metal, even if you are in industrial music, where a lot of compression is used, if it's been done on the way in, then maybe you don't need to do it at all on that particular channel, and you can just leave that one without anything. So kind of use your ears. I know that's kind of like, oh, use your ears. Ears need trained. So it isn't just a passive thing of, hey, use your ears, learn to mix with your ears, not with your eyes, don't look at the screen, use what all the stuff that people say on Facebook in Facebook mixing groups, where they think that they are exemplars of the Dunning-Kruger effect. They have little experience, but they think they have a lot of expertise. And those are the people that will just shout at you, hey, use your ears. Don't look at the screen. Mix with your ears. That's why God gave you these flappy things on the side of your head. Listen. Mix by listening. I don't like those kind of comments. They aggravate me a lot. But they are kind of right. To a small degree, they are kind of right. Yes, you do need to listen, and you need to listen closely to your mix. You need to listen to the channel that you're working on. You need to listen to the channel that you're working on in the context of the mix and decide what it needs. What is it telling you it needs? And it takes time to get to that point. If you are young in your, and I'm not talking about your actual age, but you're young in your experience of recording, mixing, and mastering, then you're just going to grab that EQ. You're going to grab that compressor. And you know what? You have to go through that phase to get to the point where you know, actually, I can leave that alone. I can leave that alone. To be honest, these days, I'm at the point now, because I've been doing this for over 30 years, where sometimes I'll do an entire mix and I've used 1, maybe 2 compressors on the entire mix. Or I've used maybe 2, maybe 3 EQs across the whole mix. I mean, it depends upon the source material. You know, how well has it been recorded? If it's been really, 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 really well recorded, and what you've got is absolutely fantastic sounding recordings, then you don't need to do any EQ or compression at all. You just need to balance the faders. You just need to use some reverb to get that front to back depth, use some delays to do the same thing, and panning. Balance those faders. And, you know, that's kind of it, you know. But there might be some tracks where maybe they didn't cut quite as well as they should. And if that's the case, you may need to do some remedial work with some EQ to kind of sort them out. Like if there's proximity effect, for example, you're going to have to use some pretty aggressive high pass filtering to clear that up. So yeah. Let's move on, shall we, to another question. So Just Bob says, I have a guitar foot pedal that is a compressor / sustainer. Is this hang on, I'm sorting this out. I have a guitar foot pedal that is a compressor sustainer and equivalent to a sustainer within Studio One tools, EQ, compression, etc. If you've got a guitar foot pedal that is a compressor or a sustainer, and a sustainer, by the way, is pretty much the same thing as a compressor. If you've got one of those, then yeah, it will be a compressor. It will do the same thing as a compressor plugin. So if you're recording your guitar track and you're using a compressor stomp box, and so your audio signal is going into the compressor stomp box, is being compressed by the stomp box, and then the output goes into the next thing in your signal chain, in your pedal board, then yeah, it's gonna do the same thing as the compressor plugin. So if you're using that and you are therefore compressing on the way in. And in fact, I know guitar players that have an EQ pedal and a compressor pedal. It may be a little 3-band EQ, and maybe they're giving themselves a little high pass filter to start with, and then maybe they're doing a little bit of, you know, very, very slow attack, very fast release compression with their little stomp box compressor. And they're just basically kissing the peaks with that. Then what you're going to end up with is a signal going into Studio One that is already compressed. And it might actually sound great as it is. And if it does, you don't need to do anything else. You don't need to do anything else. You can just leave it as is, or you can do a little bit of further compression if need be. Kyle says loves to do unnecessary things. That's funny. As Joe Meek once said, if it sounds good, it is good. Yes, and you know what? I think he also borrowed that from Duke Ellington, because Duke Ellington, the great American composer and arranger, he said, if it sounds right, it is right. And it doesn't matter whether it follows accepted principles and conventions of music or not. So, I mean, an example in his case is he might have written a trumpet part for one of his trumpet players and told him to use a Harmon mute with a plunger wah-wah on the front of it, which the guy basically uses the sync plunger to create a wah-wah effect on the Harmon mute, and he's telling him to growl into the instrument at the same time. Is this conventional? No. Does it sound great? Yes, it does. And if it sounds good in the context of the overall arrangement, then it is good. It is right. It is right to have the trumpet player do that. So, you know, again, it goes back to the whole thing of context being king. Context is always king. If it sounds good, it is good. If it sounds right, it is right. You can't argue with it. It's a good point. Keith says, I learned on the inserts to click on down arrow to get access to presets for many instruments provided by PreSonus. Is a good starting point to learn. Yeah, presets are a good starting point. And that's why every DAW has them. And that's why most plugins have them. Because they're a great starting point, not just for beginners, but they're a great starting point for whatever level you're at. And I would even argue that professional mix engineers, they actually create their own presets. I do it all the time. If I know I have a particular vocalist that I work with all the time, I create an effects chain that I know works for her voice. And I've just got access to that effects chain anytime that she's in to do a song. I set up her channel, I set up her microphone, I drag in the effects chain. Done. I know that she's got exactly what she needs to make her voice sound awesome. And, you know, I know what microphone works for her voice, so I'm going to plug that particular microphone and I'm going to position it at exactly the right spot I know works for her and is going to make her sound fantastic. And then she's going through that EQ and compression effects chain that's also got sends on it. So it's also got a send to a reverb, a send to a delay. And those are all set up with particular presets on them at particular blends. That's already set up. I know that is going to work for her. And it's just literally drag and drop. It's done. That's like 4 plugins done. And the EQ has a particular preset that I've made specifically for her voice. The compression settings, again, are set particular to her voice because I know her dynamic range. I do that kind of thing all the time with people that I work with regularly. For myself, for my own singing voice, I've got my own effects chain. I just drag, drop, done. I'm ready to record. Or I'm ready to process my own recording. And, you know, things like that just save time. Create effects chains. They save time, especially for things that you're going to be doing regularly. Like that effects chain for the Fender Rhodes that I had there to make that loop in my earlier example. I just dragged in an effects chain that I know works. It sounds great. So I record with that and I know the sound I'm going to get. So that's why I created that effects chain. So, and it saves me having to set all those things up. They're there. I just drag and drop and it's done. So effects chains are your best friend. No question about that. Mike says, if I mixed by listening, my high end would be all kinds of screwed up. Tinnitus. Yeah, I have tinnitus as well. However, if you know what your tinnitus sounds like, you can work around it. If you know where the frequency points are that your tinnitus is at, you can work around that. And also, you can use reference tracks as well, because the thing with reference tracks is the reference tracks will go through your ears. They will go through the kind of tinnitus that you've already got. So you know how a professionally mixed and mastered song sounds in your room on your speakers, so you know that you know what good therefore sounds like, even with your tinnitus. So then when you're doing your mix, you play your mix against that reference, so you know what the high end should sound like of your mix compared to, you know, the professional recorded mixed and mastered reference track that you're using. And you can check the high end. You can say, okay, I've done my high end mix. I've done my mix. What does my high end, which is my weak point, what does that sound like against this reference? And then you listen to the reference track. Then you listen to your own. You do a little bit of A-Bing, and then you can arrive at the conclusion. Mine maybe still sounds a little harsh, and you can dial it down until it kind of sounds close-ish to the high end of your reference track. So if you have tinnitus, reference tracks are your best friend. They will help you a lot, because I know where mine is. Mine is about 13K, roughly, and it's a C sharp at 13K. It's a C sharp in this ear, and it's a D in this ear. They are literally a semitone apart at 13K. I know how mine sounds, so I know where my weak point is going to be. That upper band, the kind of air band, that's going to be my weak point when mixing. So again, I use reference tracks to make sure, am I getting that right? Or am I not getting that right? Is my mix too harsh? Is my mix too dark? And usually because we've got the screamy whininess going on at that 13K kind of area, we are compensating for that by dialing that air band down. And so, the mix to our ears can actually sound dark in reality to somebody that doesn't have tinnitus. So again, that's why reference tracks, I think, are going to help you. And yes, using your eyes as well, looking at spectrometers and that kind of thing to kind of say, check your final master output and go, okay, where is my top end? Is it too much or is it not enough? And if it's not enough, then I can use an EQ plugin on the master bus and I can bring that air band right up to where it should be. And yes, you can use a spectrometer to help you get that right. Yes, we are running over tonight, but that's because I've been away on vacation and I'm happy to run over a little bit. Dave says that's the most info and thank you. The use of input pre's and that works just right for me. Good. I'm very glad to hear it. Kyle says has 2 ear EQs on my listen bus to compensate for my high end loss. There you go. Mike says that he can't really hear much over 8K. Yep. It's muffled. I have a hard time in restaurants and stores where there is that low background hum. I can't really hear when someone talks to me. I have a similar problem with crowded rooms. You're right. I have a similar problem to that too with crowded spaces. Because like you, with that background hum, I can't always hear the person that's talking right in front of me. So I've had that for a very long time. I've had that maybe since I was about 25, when I started realizing that I couldn't really hear the person in front of me when I was in a pub. So I taught myself to lip read. Yes, I could get hearing aids. Hearing aids, actually good high-end hearing aids, are really, really expensive. My dad has a set of expensive high-end hearing aids for that very thing, when he's in a public space, so that he can hear people when they're talking to him. And he says they're great for that, but if he tries to play his guitar, sounds awful. So he takes the things off when he's playing his guitar. Or if he's actually playing at a gig, he takes the damn thing off. He takes the hearing aids off because it just sounds really, really awful. Even with these like ridiculously high-end expensive hearing aids where it comes with an app for your phone that has like an EQ, and you can actually dial in the EQ for your hearing aids. It's crazy. He says those are no good for music. So I totally get that. So like I said, I taught myself how to lip read. So that's my workaround, particularly on a Sunday when I'm at church and after the meeting, everybody is talking over a cup of coffee, that kind of thing. I can't hear the person that's right in front of me, so I'm lip reading them. And I've actually got reasonably good. It's taken me a while, but I've actually got reasonably good. I taught myself how to do that. And the way I taught myself how to do that was by, when I was watching TV, I'd mute the audio on the TV and I'd put the subtitles on. So basically pretending that I'm deaf, basically. And I would watch the lips and watch the text and see if I could match the mouth movements with the words in the text. And that taught me how to lip read. And it kind of worked. And it does work. It does work for me. I'm not brilliant. I'm not perfect, but I'm pretty good at lip reading. I can certainly get enough of the gist of what is being said so that I can make a proper response to them that makes sense rather than the kind of thing where they say something profound and I say, yeah, it's 8:30. And they go, what? You know? So you know, like it is with mixing, like it is with learning a language, you make all of those mistakes, and then the more you practice, the more you get better, and the more you get better at being able to hold cogent, coherent conversations. And that's, you know, that's kind of what it's about. Anyway, we will end the show there. Thank you very much, everybody, for your great questions. That was absolutely fantastic. You guys are terrific. Those kind of these questions. You guys are great. Thank you very much to Chris Marachner for his email question, which I've now partially answered. Like I said, with the MIDI aspect of it, I've obviously created those little MIDI files and then forgotten how I made the presets for them. So I'm going to have to figure that one out. And I will make a standalone video on how to do that once I've figured it out. And that will go up on this channel as soon as I get to it. But I will get to it as soon as I can. Because I think it'd be good for everybody, so that they can, you know, everybody can create some MIDI files and then drag them in and use them either on the instrument that it was designed for, or you can use it on a different instrument. So there we go. We will end it there, folks. I will see you on Wednesday for the first the first Songwriting Simplified show in a couple of weeks. So I'm looking forward to all of your songwriting, composing, and arranging and music theory questions. And we'll just try and get through as many as we possibly can. So come prepared. Come getting your questions in the chat early. And I will not do so much of a preamble, just so that I can get as many of your questions done as I possibly can in the hour that we have. And I will see you then. Good night, everybody.